everything is always linked down in the description. So if you need to know maybe the name if I don't say it, or a price or some other information, everything is always linked in the description. Usually I link each individual item, but sometimes I might have to link just the store or the site, so you might have to type in the name, but I'll usually have the name written right next to it. I also have a membership that you can join. It's in the description, or you can just click the join button next to the subscribe button, where we do sharpening, and then we also do giveaways. So you can check that out if you want to become a member of Neeves Knives. But all the links down there in the description are all affiliates, and it benefits the channel if you guys are ever needing to buy something, purchase something, whether it's Amazon or any of the knife dealers or any of the knife companies. Everything is always linked in the description, so you can easily find those in every video. Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared, and today we're talking about office carry knives. Knives that go well with a suit, go well with a suit jacket, or potentially, like a CEO style knife. Somebody who works in a place where you kind of want your knives to sort of be pen-like to some extent. Now, not all of them are in this video, but that's kind of the style I'm going with, something that would be good for office carry. But like I said, they're not all super slim. So this is a knife by Ocaso. This is the Solstice, and I actually met up with him. Me and him went and had lunch, smoked a cigar, had a great time, and I've had a bunch of different versions of the Solstice. So my favorite is probably the Harpoon, but the drop point is also just as good. These are very slim. They come in, obviously titanium in this case with the scroll work and stuff. You can get plain titanium, you can get all black, you know, coated blades, non-coated blades. And then I think he's even gonna come out with some other lightweight versions. And there might be something in the works from him, potentially with hand sharpened edges, which would be really cool. But these are very, very slim knives running S35 VN. Like I said, titanium scales, steel liner, and it has a nice deep carry clip that is reversible. So you can reverse it to the other side. So if you're right or left hand, it's fine. And then the action is so snappy. This action is addicting. Every time I walk by these, I always grab them and I have to start flipping them. The flipper tab is very comfortable. It's very, it's just a satisfying flip, and you can see how smooth it is. Now, these are made in Taiwan, and like I said, lots of different versions, and these go great inside of a jacket pocket. And while I was with Rick from Ocaso, we were talking about these style knives, and he's kind of the reason he's the reason why this video is actually happening, because he gave me the idea, which I have done these videos in the past. Now, moving over to another one. Now, this one is a little bit wider. This is the Real Steel, oops, that was my fault. The Real Steel Barlo RB7. And it has a S35 VN blade, just like the last one. Beautiful satin finish. You can see it's O-stop held design, titanium bolster lock, steel lock bar insert, micarta scales. Now there is other versions, other micartas, and I think carbon fibers and whatnot. It is a front flipper only. However, it is very, very good. This is a great front flipper. It's very easy to do the reach over because it's such a narrow, slim knife. So it doesn't take you, very much reach to get it. And then also, it works great. It's just a regular thumb flipper as far as the front flipper goes, and you can use the side finger. Now you can't get to that fuller, it is a little too tight, so that is the downside, but there is great access to the lock bar. It is very, very smooth. It is using premium materials, so it's a very high quality knife from Real Steel, and also a very, very slim knife. And yes, the last couple are kind of long, but I'm not sure if that'll really matter inside of an office so much. Maybe it might, so maybe you might want something a little smaller. Something maybe like this. This is from ZYAC Designs. Now, ZYAC has, I want to be clear, maybe I'll show some pictures. These guys have a lot of crazy cool stuff. Like they have ring knives and OTFs where you can switch the blades out to different blade shapes. Tons of really cool stuff. Check out ZYAC's site. They get some really cool stuff. I featured a bunch of their stuff on the channel. So this is just a little replaceable bladed knife. And what's cool is you have this guy right here. You can push that button and it'll pop open. You have extra blades in there. So if your blade does go dull, you can easily swap it out. It's very slim, very narrow, very easy to carry in a jacket pocket. These are titanium. They weigh barely nothing. And then if you want something a little bit bigger, you can go with this one. And it has the same feature in the back where you can keep a blade. I personally like this blade shape more, but this is a different number. I did find that there are some utility blades that will fit this as well if you don't like the scalpel style blade. But for opening up envelopes or letters and packages and boxes and things like that, this would be great as long as your cutting is mostly precision. Now, I wouldn't say, I mean, you might be able to cut straps with these, but a regular knife might be a little bit better in that regard. But if that's not what you're doing and you're mostly just opening up packages and envelopes and stuff like that, this would be great. And as we all know, everybody needs a, wait, wrong video. Going back to a super slim knife that is pen-like, we have the Samiors. Samiors are, or they have a lot of different colors, flavors, different options, different handle materials, different price ranges, but even the premium ones, M390 and titanium, are very affordable. Kind of like the Ocaso, this has a very comfortable flipper tab, super snap, you can hear it. Very, very slim. This is like damn near pen-like. Very long M390 satin blade. There is other blade steels and whatnot, but you can see how the blade sits completely inside the titanium frame lock. You have a titanium mill pocket clip, which will look basically like a pen. And then they do come with a leather slip if you want it. I personally don't, but you know, if you wanted to take off the clip, you could just carry it like that. I personally wouldn't, but to each their own. Good access to the lock bar for such a light, because this is a very light blade. For such a light blade, this is super duper smooth, and my goodness is it snappy. And one reason why I like very slim knives is because of this reason. Now I'm going to show you guys a little preview. I'm not supposed to show you guys this yet. You guys aren't supposed to see this for a few days, but what's really cool is when you're opening up any type of boxes and stuff, what's really sucks is when you tear into it because it's difficult to get the flap. But with a little slim knife like this, you can get in between the seam, and then what I do is I just go like that, pops boxes and little packages right open. I literally do that move so many times a day, like constantly. I'm constantly doing that. This is a knife coming from O-Knife, and it's going to be dropping on Prime Day, which is the 8th. So if you want to save money, Prime Day is on the 8th. A lot of things will be 40% off. Now, you got to be careful because there are some little tricks and scams companies will do where they'll up the price of something weeks before Prime Day so that when they do the sale, it's basically the same price they're selling it for. But there are also a lot of companies doing incredible sales. So this will be dropping on that day. Now, what's special about this? So this will come in different handle materials, which I do have, and I'll show that on a later date. This has a ceramic blade, and my goodness, this is probably the sharpest ceramic I've ever felt. If you look, it has a micro bevel that's going to, 1, prevent chipping, but 2, makes this thing basically a hair whittling edge. This is absolutely the sharpest. I mean, this thing is nightmarishly sharp. And that's really cool because being a ceramic blade, this thing will stay sharp for the longest you could possibly have something stay sharp. Now, yes, they're not going to be strong, so they could chip if you hit them on something or whatever. But as far as cutting goes and opening things up and whatever, these will stay sharp virtually forever. And then you can always just replace it. You don't have to worry about sharpening, which is sometimes a nightmare for people to sharpen ceramic, which it's possible, but to replace the blade, why wouldn't you just do that? This one is titanium. All of them do come with a little pry bar bottle opener tool, but yeah, like I said, I got more about this coming up, so I don't want to spill the beans too much, even though I kind of just did, but on the 8th, that will be available, along with other versions. Now, this next one is probably a little big for an office carry, but it still follows the same type of profile as what I'm talking about. And I'd probably recommend the aluminum version. I don't have that, but the aluminum version is a front flipper. Similar blade, but it is a lot lighter. It is more pen-like. Basically, this is, by the way, the G5 metamorph, but they have another metamorph that has aluminum scales with cool anodization. This blade is one of the most useful blade shapes. Utility cuts are amazing. Tons of straight edge for slicing. It's basically like such a versatile blade shape that, especially for like office carry and stuff when you need precision work and things, man, this is a great, great knife. Perfect sharpening tool and plunge grind. Like, you have tons of life to sharpen off. This one's 14C28M in G10, but like I said, they have the aluminum ones. And then this one is a button lock, and the aluminum ones are a liner lock. But the liner lock offers, like I said, a front flipping action, which is very, very satisfying. So this is the Real Steel Metamorph. Real Steel's got a lot of really cool stuff, man. People sleep on Real Steel when they absolutely shouldn't. The new Big Eye design knife that is, my goodness, so good. I freaking love, love, love this thing. So this is the new model from Big Eye, and this is in collaboration with Mac Kelsey. Now, this is the most smoothest and snappiest little knife I think I felt, period. It's using a detent ball that acts as the detent lock face and detent. Sorry, the lock face and the detent. So it has this glassiness that you expect from like a Chris Reeve Sebenza with the action of a knife on bearings, because it is on bearings. And I believe these are similar, if not skiff bearings. So I'm not 100% about that, but I think so. Has an internal stop pin, very gentlemanly. That's another thing I like about it. It's very slicey, very thin behind the edge, and it has great access to that lock bar. The knife is very, man, these thumb studs are just incredible. It's addicting. Titanium frame lock, titanium clip, and the clip is reversible. It does come with a new piece, so you can switch this over to this side. The blade steel is M390, as you see right there, and just an absolute gorgeous piece that is very refined, and there's something special about this one. So, like I said, it is not necessarily a pen knife, but definitely a nice, discreet little lightweight knife, especially for somebody that's wanting that finer quality. And possibly not into the super slim knives, kind of like this guy. This guy is definitely not a super slim knife. This is an exclusive from GP Knives. And I bring it up because it is a double, basically like a detent knife. So you can open it up to there and then snap it all the way open. It's using Rex 45 steel, which is one of my all-time favorite steels. You can easily slap it down one-handed. So it's a non-locking, one-hand operating knife. The blade shape and size is really good for, you know, tracing around things and having a lot of control with your blade. It's so lightweight, you'll forget you even have it, that you can totally put this on a jacket pocket because it's solid FRN. So all you have is the back spring, maybe a little bit of steel right there, and then the blade. So it's basically weightless. I mean, it's not weightless, but you know what I mean. It's very, very light. So super easy to carry inside of an office, or possibly at a place where you can't have locking knives, like, you know, maybe Germany or something. And I know people struggle with buying these in the UK. I'm not positive, but if GP Knives won't send that to you, to your country, you could check out the UK pen knife. These are available at Blade HQ, and it is another double detent knife, very easy to manipulate one-handed, and it's a lot more affordable, running, again, pure FRN handle, so it's extremely lightweight, a little bit of a longer blade, a little bit of a better detent action too, but that's just because it doesn't have, like, it has a half stop, but I don't know, just something, maybe it's just the size, I'm not sure, but you can possibly check out one of these instead. There is also the little Boker Burnley design. This is the, oh man, I can't think of the name of it, but it's a popular name and I can't think of the name of it. Anyways, I'll put it up on the screen. Again, super slim. You see we got fat carbon fiber, super snappy, very comfortable flipper tab, great for the push button, very narrow, almost a straight back blade in VG10. The access to the lock bar is much better than the CEO from CRKT. And I know people are gonna be like, why aren't you putting the CRKT CEO in here? because I don't like it. I hate it. I despise that knife. I can't put it in here. I just can't, because I wouldn't sit there and recommend something that I wouldn't get myself, because the lock bar axis is so horrendous. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. So I'm sorry if you guys love that knife. I personally don't. Now, this exact version, I believe, is sold out with the fat carbon fiber and VG10. This one was a small one, so there is a small and then a large. However, this is the Quaken, by the way. I remember the name. The Quaken comes in a lot of different versions. There's tons of different handle materials, whatnot and so forth, different sizes. I believe they even have automatic versions. So the Quaken does come in a lot of different sizes and, you know, different materials and whatnot. If you're just looking for a gentleman knife, I highly recommend checking out Jack Wolf Knives. They have a ton of amazing slip joints of all different styles and shapes and blade shapes, all with very deep hollow grinds. However, they did just drop a flat ground version that's only like 80 bucks with budget materials. But this one right here is a premium one. This is the Midnight Jack, one of my favorites. But the Midnight Jack also came in a locking version, if that's a little bit more your speed, if you don't want a slip joint, but you want that traditional look. They have a ton of those too, all different flavors, options, sizes, and blade shapes for the locking versions. So like I said, if you're wanting to get a really cool gentleman piece, something that's more slip joint like, more traditional like, but in premium materials, or should I say modern materials, check out Jack Wolf Knives. You absolutely can't go wrong with them. I know some people are like, they are a little bit pricey. Of course they are, but they're extremely, extremely well done. And like I said, they do now have budget versions. This is a little neck knife. Now I know we're going into the weeds here, but I just really quickly, before we close the video off, I want to just jump into the weeds really quick with you guys. So yes, this is a neck knife. Yes, this is not a conventional office carry knife. However, if you're already wearing chains and stuff like that, maybe you dress, you know, maybe with a dress shirt or something like that, maybe you wear a chain, whatever, right? It might not be bad to wear this under your button up. You could potentially, especially if you wear a wife beater or something like that underneath, you can keep it under there. And if you ever did need to get to it, you know, obviously you'd have to pull out your shirt or go in between the buttons or whatever, but you always got a little blade, or you can just pull it out from, you know, the top of your shirt. But I love that this has different handles you can buy. So this one is titanium, but I do have some other versions, some carbon fiber versions, which is really cool. Beautiful drop point blade, satin finish with magna cut steel, very, very sharp, great sheath, great retention, great push off point. And yeah, it has more handle than blade, which is nice. So you have a little blade that's very easy to manipulate around boxes and tape and things like that. Then you got this little guy. Now, this little guy is, I think this thing is so cool looking. I love how narrow and slim it is, kind of like the pen knives. But this one, I do have an Alti clip on. However, you could easily put this on a neck knife or use it as a neck knife, which has tons of hand, or a good amount of handle, so you can easily get a good grip on it and possibly even use it for self-defense maybe. But you could also clip it if you want to. Great push-off point, great sheath. He did a really good job with that. He has lots of different variations of this with all different types of handle materials. I picked this one specifically for Kara, and then it's got the copper Damascus harpooned blade, as you can see. So this is just like, you know, I was thinking, you never know what type of office, you know, you're working in. You know, some places, they don't really care what you carry and whatnot, and they expect people to be carrying things. And in other places, not so much, and you want to be a little bit more discreet. But how can you get more discreet than, you know, a neck knife, right? Something that's completely hidden under your shirt. So anyways, there you guys go. Thank you for jumping into the weeds with me on this one. Work hard, stay tough. Till next time, peace.